Hi everybody, welcome to my channel, reviewing, playing, and more, RPM for short. My name's Dennis. Today's video is going to be about, well, what do you do with a graphics card that's not working the way you want it to? You can optimize it, you can change the thermal paste, you can put one of those water blocks on it, but first you have to know how to take it apart. So that's what this video is about. We're going to take this graphics card apart, at least partially, and show you how to do that. And then we're going to show you what you need to do to make it work better. Now in this case, I couldn't test it beforehand, which I do recommend before you do anything. You test it beforehand, make sure what your benchmarks are, what your temperatures are, etc. Now in this case, it's already kind of failing. So my objective of this is take it apart, clean it up, put some new paste on it, and then I'll test it and see how it goes. Okay, so a little bit of a disclaimer here first is prior to taking this apart. First, like I said, I didn't have the opportunity to do this, but I'm going to do it afterward. If you have the opportunity first, you're going to want to monitor the GPU temperature at idle under load for at least 30 minutes using a tool like GPU-C or Z. Depends how you want to say it. All right. Make sure you write down the ambient room temperature for later reference. Okay, and then use these as your baseline values to determine whether it had any impact or not. And of course, the other thing you want to keep in mind is you want to look where all your connectors are, where all your screws are, and you got to write them down. You might even want to take a couple pictures, because when you take it apart and then you go to put it back together, if you don't remember where everything was at and you didn't take any pictures, you might find it a little difficult to put it back together. All right, so that's just a little tip. Another thing to keep in mind is your heatsink, okay, because you can see the little coils here. Well, these are the coils, but these are the heatsink itself, the pipes that go across. You want to make sure that when you're looking at those, where they're located, and those are almost always going to be attached, okay, with these 4 screws here, all right. Depending on the graphics card you have, of course, there could be a lot more screws. Generally speaking, I picked this one just because it does have less screws, just make an easier video. But generally speaking, you're going to have a whole lot more screws than what's on this particular graphics card. So just keep that in mind. And even if you're a video professional, or I should say a professional that does this for a living, obviously if you've done it for a while, you may not need to, but it's always still a good idea to take pictures of your screws, keep them in one particular spot, like usually a magnetized tray or something like that. It's a good idea. In my case, there's only 4 screws, so I'm just going to put them on the table and that'll be fine. All right, but it's a good idea to make sure that you keep track of them, you know where they're all at. Now, disclaimer is one thing you also want to keep in mind. Some of these screws, when you use them, they'll have a little white warranty sticker over top of them. Okay, so once you damage that warranty sticker, okay, then your card it's void. So if you had any warranty on it, it's going to be gone. Send it back for the warranty, get it done properly. Unless, of course, you're really good and you know what you're doing. But if you don't, send it back for the warranty work before you go ahead and do this. That's just a better way of doing things. If you don't have a warranty, like this warranty is gone on this, so I'm just going to tear it apart and see what I can do. And you get to go along and watch it with me. And of course, once you break that seal, your warranty won't be honored. So if you do send it back to them, they might just tell you, sorry, you broke the warranty. You went in, we don't know what you did, so we're not going to cover it, and then you're on your own. So pay attention to your warranty. Don't void your warranty if you want to send it off later and get it fixed, because you might be out of luck if you do that. And keep in mind that sometimes these screws that are in here that you're going to take apart, you're not always going to be able to see them all. Some will be accessible, some will be hidden. So just keep that in mind when you start your teardown. Okay, in my case, I picked this for that reason. Mine are here, there's only 4, it's accessible, and you'll be able to see what it looks like after I get it apart. Okay, so this particular cooler does not have a back plate. If it had a back plate, it would cover the entire span of this, and it protects the components from static electricity, that kind of thing. I'm not worried about this card, so I haven't taken a lot of precautions. Well, I haven't taken any precautions, actually. So I'm not really worried if it works afterward or not. Hopefully it will. I think it will. But even though static electricity is a thing, keep that in mind. Don't do it on this surface here, because this is like a fault surface, and static electricity will certainly be a factor. So you want to have it on a proper workbench and a non-static environment. Okay, so make sure you keep that in mind. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is disconnect the cable here. So all you got to do is you can just pull it straight out. All right, so it just comes out. Remember that it went in here. I've got the video, so I'm going to know later on. There are no other places that you have to take apart. All right, nothing's attached. Sometimes there can be a screw there, but it's easy to take off. Okay, so we're just going to set it back down here, and we're going to undo these 4 screws. And it's very simple. So you're going to want to make sure that whatever the size is, make sure your screwdriver is the right size first. So then you're just going to go in here, and you can just hold it if you need to. Doesn't hurt to touch this. And we're just going to unscrew it. Sometimes these can be on there pretty tight. And that is what they look like. Okay, nothing fancy. 4 of them, we'll get them out. Okay, so that's pretty much all there is to it. And from having done this in the past, I know that this is now disconnected. So if I pick up on this, it's going to come off. So the other thing you're going to look at here, all right, so you got, let me just move this over here a bit, another connector here, all right? So you got to remember where that connector was and make sure that this one that comes off of it is going to go back in here. All right, so we're just going to pull that off, and it should come off pretty easy. That's it. Now we have a look. So getting a look in here, you can see that thermal paste is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reapply that, and I'm going to put it back together. So the thermal paste is here as well. So you're going to use some isopropanol, clean that off, and you're going to do the same thing on here. You're going to clean it off. So basically on this one, we're just optimizing it, cleaning it up. Now, a lot of newer graphics cards will have pads on them. This one doesn't really have them that I can see. Just looking here. And that just gives you a bit of a look inside. These are just your memory cards, circuit cards, whatever they are. I don't know. I'm not an in-depth graphics card user, so I don't know that exactly. Of course, this is a bit of a heat sink on here. And of course, your connections at the end. Nothing fancy. So I'm going to clean that off and basically put it back together. There's not much else I can do at that point. Okay. But I just wanted to show you a quick look at this. What you can do, clean it off. Now, if you were going to buy a water block, then that's where this comes off, and then you might be replacing this with a whole new thing. All right, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so got the rubbing alcohol. All right, so it is 95% ethanol. Okay, just in case you're wondering what to look for. Now we're just going to clean this off. So you just make sure you don't touch too much, and you're just going to, it's on there, caked on pretty hard, as you can see. Now, one thing you can notice is, even though I've got it all off and it's been all cleaned, there is still a bit of a film there that it just doesn't come off. I've tried it for quite a while here now, so I paused the film, tried, but it's not a worry. It's direct contact, so it's still going to be okay. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. So now I'm just going to move over here and clean that. Now you can see the AMD graphics on the GPU. It's been cleaned all off. All right, now a lot of manufacturers, when they first put this on, they put way too much, and it can cause them problems. Not generally enough that it's going to cause you any real grief. So I'm going to set this back down. Okay, so now they've got this cleaned, this is clean. We're going to put a little bit of thermal paste on here. Now, the thing you keep in mind with thermal paste, of course, is there's all kinds of different types. And so another thing to keep in mind is be careful when you're cleaning the GPU package to avoid scraping or scratching, because even forceful rubbing with a soft cloth could damage the fragile hardware. And if a certain amount of pressure is exceeded, of course, that's going to happen. Now, if you have some parts of the thermal paste that just won't come off, you're better off just to leave that little bit there than to try and forcefully remove it. Because if you try to forcefully remove it, then you could possibly damage it. So you better leave that little bit there than to try and force it off. Now, generally speaking, some of the stuff in around here, I got most of it off. There's a tiny little bit right in here. It's not going to impact anything, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. So a couple of things to keep in mind. Old thermal paste must be removed as much as possible. Don't use any pointed or sharp objects, and don't scratch it and don't scrape it. Okay, apply suitable solvents carefully and in moderation. Okay, don't use aggressive solvents. Don't use nitrocellulose or acetone. And avoid solvents around the GPU package, and don't leave any puddles. Okay, it's going to cause you some problems potentially. So when you put your thermal paste on, you want to put it on the GPU die. Okay, put a little blob in the middle, pretty much the same as you would put on a desktop CPU. And if you don't know how much that is or what that application is, look back on one of my previous videos and you'll be able to see it. All right. So there's a couple different types you can use, but just make sure to use the blob method. Okay. Make sure when you put the GPU screws back on, put them in counterclockwise or crosswise. Like, so put one here, 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 and here. Kind of like when you put in power supply or something along that line. Just because you want an even pressure so that everything goes down properly. So in addition to the paste basic properties such as high thermal conductivity, low thermal resistance, its consistency also plays an important role. Okay, because in the hands of a professional, thermal paste with high viscosity, like diamond paste, can be a perfect weapon to battle excess heat. However, for less experienced modders, they're often unpredictable and difficult to handle. To achieve the perfect result with a high viscous paste, you have to preheat the paste. Warm up the heatsink to somewhere between 60 and 70 degrees. Apply the right amount of paste to the sink and then screw it all back together before the product cools down. We're not doing that. Okay, we're going to put some paste on and then we're going to put the screws back on, and generally speaking, it's going to be fine. Okay, but thing to keep in mind as well, if you were going to put on like EK water blocks or something along that line, then you're going to have to go follow their directions, and it's going to be applied on here afterward. You're still going to apply the thermal paste, but then you're going to put the water block on top of it. So that's a whole different video. Just something I wanted to mention. So even though Thermal Grizzly's Chironaut, hopefully I pronounced that right, replaced GC Extreme as the weapon of choice for graphics cards, it's also a lot more expensive. So just something to keep in mind. And Cryonite's also a bit thinner and smoother than Gelid's GC Extreme, and it doesn't tear. And it's well suited candidate for very smooth, cooler surfaces. However, having said that, okay, so I'm going to use Arctic Silver 5, high density polysynthetic silver thermal compound. All right, just because that's what I have on hand. This is a used graphics card, so I'm not worried about, because I'm not planning on using this for any extended length of time or anything like that, and I know it will work. So you can use what you choose. You can use the ones I recommended, or you can go out and buy your own. Okay, there's lots of options. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to reattach that one cable. I'm going to apply the thermal paste, and then I'm going to put it back on, and I'm going to reattach the 4 screws. So in case you're wondering, this is going to go in here. It's going to be it's only going to go in there one way. So you can see on here those little grooves where my thumb is, and those are going to go on the outside of this. So that's the way it's got to get put on. So I'm just going to attach that. and it just goes in place. So when I go to put everything back on, it's going to be here. And of course, no, I shouldn't be touching that, but that's okay for now. Then this is going to get reattached. All right. And if you're wondering how you go on, you can see that it's got that little gap here. So that's how you know you can line it up. All right. You're going to line it up like that, and then you're going to plug this one back in. Okay, so we're just going to put our thermal paste on. And you want to create like a little blob. And that's perfect. Now the other thing you want to do is, as you go to put this on, okay, be careful with that. You might want to reattach this. Okay, so these two here. So I'm going to see if I can do that, because this is not going to run. I'm going to try and put these together before I put it in, because it will be a lot easier to do that now than it will be down the road. So I'm just going to move this so you can see. Again, you got your little stripes, so you want that on the outside. So just like that. And pushes in pretty easily. So I did just pause the camera just for a second to tighten this to make sure it's on there properly. And now we're going to go ahead and put it on. So, turn this upside down. You're going to make sure you line up your screw holes here. Okay, line up your screw holes. And now all we're going to do is we're going to put our screws in. Try not to touch this stuff as much as you can. So this screw is going to go in here. You'll feel it when it goes in. And you just you'll have to apply a little bit of pressure. And you'll feel it when it tightens. Just like a motherboard, you just don't want to over tighten it. So once it's in, then go to the other corner here, put that one in. Sorry, here. Put that one in too. Now I don't have a magnetic screwdriver for this size, unfortunately, so it's a bit of a pain in the batukas. So what you can do, if that's the case, is just set it there. You just set it in the hole, and then just do this. Just go. Once you know you've got it, then just push her down and tighten it. Okay, so that's in there tight. Just going to check this one again. And then you're going to do the same thing for the other two screws. Don't over tighten. Okay, so just check to make sure they're tight. You don't want to over tighten, but you want them to be snug. All right. And that's it. Okay, now obviously this is a much easier breakdown out of a graphics card than some of the other ones. If you want to see a different one, if you want to see an NVIDIA, because this was an AMD graphics card, if you want to see an NVIDIA breakdown, or a tear down, I should say, let me know. Put it in the comments. Alright, so I'm not going to go through and do the testing for the thermals and all that kind of stuff right now. I will do that. If you want to get that bit of information later on, let me know, and then I'll post it in the description. Alright, thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe. Check out my videos that are coming up. Hit that like, hit the dislike, leave me a comment, let me know. Anyway, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for future videos. Have a great day. I guess Sparky here says have a great day too, don't you, buddy? Right? Oh, you're being lazy today. There you go. Alright. Good boy. Boy, alright. We're going to end this now. We're going to end this.